Your spine is compressing. Every single day, disc by disc, you are losing height. And by age 70, most Americans have shrunk a full inch to 2 inches. Nobody told you. A 2006 study published in Archives of Internal Medicine tracked men over 20 years and found that those who lost 3 centimeters or more had a significantly increased risk of all-cause mortality and coronary heart disease. Height loss isn't cosmetic. It's a biomarker for death. And the mechanism behind it is reversible if you understand what's actually collapsing inside your spine. Most people believe that shrinking with age is inevitable, like gray hair or wrinkles, just something that happens, an unfortunate byproduct of getting older that you accept and move on from. This belief is wrong, and it's costing people their mobility, their balance, their lung capacity, and, according to research, years off their lives. Here's what's actually happening. Your spine isn't one solid bone. It's 33 vertebrae stacked on top of each other, separated by 23 intervertebral discs. Those discs are the reason you can bend, twist, and absorb shock. Each disc has a tough outer shell, the annulus fibrosus, and a gel-like center called the nucleus pulposus. In a healthy young adult, that nucleus is roughly 80 to 90% water. It's essentially a hydraulic cushion, pressurized fluid holding your vertebrae apart. After age 50, that water content begins to decline measurably. The nucleus loses its hydration, the disc flattens. Multiply that flattening across 23 discs and you get height loss. Real, measurable, structural shortening of your entire skeleton. A 2014 longitudinal study published in Economics and Human Biology found that women lose height at a rate of 0.12 to 0.14% per year, while men lose 0.08 to 0.10% annually. That accumulates. By age 80, the average woman has lost 2 full inches. But here's what the research shows that contradicts the inevitable narrative. Disc dehydration is not purely age-driven. It is heavily influenced by mechanical loading patterns, muscle support, hydration status, and specific types of movement. A 2017 study published in Scientific Reports by researchers at Deakin University in Australia demonstrated that people who run regularly have measurably better disc hydration and proteoglycan content than sedentary controls of the same age. Their discs were biologically younger. Your height loss is not a sentence, it's a signal. And the question is, what exactly is causing it, and how you intervene before it becomes irreversible? The primary mechanism of age-related height loss is disc desiccation, the progressive drying out of your intervertebral discs. To understand why this happens, you need to understand how discs feed themselves. Because here's the critical fact that most people never learn. Your intervertebral discs have almost no blood supply. Unlike your muscles, your liver, your heart, which are all drenched in blood vessels delivering oxygen and nutrients, your spinal discs are among the largest avascular structures in the human body. So how do they get nutrition? Through a process called imbibition. Think of it like a sponge sitting in a shallow dish of water. When you compress the sponge, squeeze it down, fluid pushes out. When you release the pressure, let it expand, the sponge draws fresh fluid back in. Your discs work identically. When you stand, walk, and bear weight, the mechanical compression pushes waste products out of the disc. When you lie down at night and remove gravitational load, fresh, nutrient-rich fluid is drawn back in from surrounding vertebral end plates. This is why you're measurably taller in the morning than at night, roughly 1 to 2 centimeters taller. Your discs rehydrate overnight. Every single night, your spine performs this hydraulic recovery cycle. Here's where aging disrupts the system. The nucleus pulposus contains a molecule called Aggrecan, a large proteoglycan that attracts and holds water. It's essentially your disc's water magnet. Research published in the journal Biochimica et Biophysica Acta confirmed that Aggrecan abundance declines steadily with age due to enzymatic breakdown by matrix metalloproteinases and aggrecanases. As Aggrecan degrades, your disc loses its ability to attract and retain water. The sponge becomes less absorbent. Even with adequate overnight rest, it can no longer pull in enough fluid to fully recover its height. By your 60s, this creates a compounding deficit. Each night, your discs recover slightly less than they lost during the day. That daily gap, perhaps only a fraction of a millimeter, accumulates across years into measurable height loss. A 34-year longitudinal study published in BMC Musculoskeletal Disorders followed Japanese adults and found a mean height loss of 3.8 centimeters over the study period, directly correlated with progressive disc degeneration and spinal curvature changes. But disc desiccation isn't the only mechanism stealing your height. What happens to the muscles surrounding your spine is equally devastating and far more preventable. Stay with me, because this second mechanism is the one you can actually reverse. Your spine doesn't hold itself upright through bone alone. It's stabilized by a system of deep postural muscles, most critically the multifidus and the erector spinae group. These muscles run along both sides of your vertebral column, from your skull to your pelvis. They provide segmental stability, meaning they hold each individual vertebra in proper alignment relative to the ones above and below it. Here's the analogy. Imagine a radio tower, one of those tall steel structures with guy wires anchored at multiple levels. The tower itself is your spine. The guy wires are your paraspinal muscles. If all the wires are taut and evenly tensioned, the tower stands perfectly vertical. But if the wires on one side weaken, if they go slack, the tower begins to lean. It doesn't collapse all at once. It drifts, slowly. And as it drifts, the load distribution changes. Some sections bear more weight than they were designed to carry. Those sections compress faster. This is exactly what happens to your spine when your paraspinal muscles atrophy. A 2020 review published in Archives of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation demonstrated significant associations between decreased cross-sectional area of the multifidus and erector spinae muscles and increased spinal degeneration, back pain, and postural collapse. When these muscles weaken, typically from prolonged sitting and inactivity, your vertebral column loses its tensional support. Certain discs get compressed more heavily. Certain vertebral bodies bear asymmetric loads. The result is accelerated disc degeneration in specific segments, vertebral wedging, and the forward curvature known as kyphosis, the hunched posture that steals inches from your standing height. If you've ever noticed that your upper back rounds more than it used to, or that you have to consciously straighten up when you catch your reflection, this is your multifidus failing. This is your erector spinae atrophying. And here's what makes this especially cruel. These muscles don't get stimulated by walking alone. They require specific loading in extension. That means if your primary exercise is walking, which is excellent for cardiovascular health, you're still doing nothing for the muscles that hold your spine vertical. There's a third mechanism layered underneath these two, and it's the one that accelerates everything else. When your vertebral bones themselves begin to weaken, the compression forces that your drying discs can no longer absorb start crushing the vertebrae directly. These are called vertebral compression fractures. Each one costs 15 to 20% of a vertebra's height. Multiple fractures can steal 2 or 3 inches in a matter of months, not decades. A Kaiser Permanente study found that women 65 and older who lost more than 2 inches over 15 years were 50% more likely to fracture a bone and 50% more likely to die than those who maintained their height. If this is connecting, if you understand now that height loss is a 3-layer problem requiring a 3-layer solution, subscribe now. Because the protocol for stopping this, and in some cases partially reversing it, is coming in 4 minutes. And it requires knowing what your spine does between midnight and 6 a.m. What almost nobody talks about is the nighttime recovery cycle, and what destroys it. Every night while you sleep, your discs are supposed to rehydrate. Gravitational load is removed. Fluid pressure equalizes. The nucleus pulposus draws in fresh water and nutrients through the vertebral end plates, the thin cartilage layers above and below each disc. This overnight recovery is not optional. It's the only repair window your discs have, because they cannot heal through blood supply like other tissues. But here's what disrupts it. The vertebral end plates, those thin cartilage gateways through which nutrients and fluid pass, calcify with age. They harden. They become less permeable. Imagine the sponge analogy again, but now imagine the dish it's sitting in has a glass cover that's slowly thickening. Even when the sponge is uncompressed and ready to absorb, fewer nutrients can pass through the barrier. Research from the journal Spine confirmed that end plate calcification increases significantly after age 50 and is correlated with accelerated disc degeneration in adjacent segments. This means your discs are caught in a double bind. They're losing their internal water-attracting molecules, the Aggrecan, and the pathway for replenishment is narrowing. The combination creates a cascade that, once established, accelerates with each passing year. Read that again. Your spine has a built-in repair system, but that system has an expiration date, not because of your age, but because of calcification driven by inflammation, poor nutrition, and chronic mechanical overload. Researchers still argue whether end-plate calcification is primarily genetic or primarily lifestyle-driven. The evidence suggests both, but the lifestyle component is substantial and modifiable. Now here's the counterintuitive finding that changes the equation entirely. The 2017 study published in Scientific Reports by Daniel Bellevue and colleagues at Deakin University examined the lumbar discs of 79 men and women using MRI. They found that people who engaged in regular moderate-intensity running, specifically slow jogging at a pace between 7 and 10 kilometers per hour, had significantly better disc hydration and greater disc height than both sedentary controls and high-impact athletes. The researchers concluded that slow, cyclic loading, the rhythmic compression and decompression that occurs with each jogging stride, optimizes the imbibition cycle. It's like rhythmically squeezing and releasing the sponge in a way that maximizes fluid exchange. Too little loading and the disc doesn't get squeezed enough to push waste out. Too much impact and the disc gets damaged before it can recover. The sweet spot, moderate, rhythmic daily movement, is what keeps discs hydrated and vertebrae spaced apart. Your body was designed to be walked and gently loaded every day, not pounded, not immobilized. The sitting epidemic, 10, 12, 14 hours per day of static spinal compression, is the single most destructive force acting on your intervertebral discs. And nobody frames it as a height loss issue, but it is. Here is the 6-step protocol to stop height loss and protect your spinal architecture. Each step addresses one specific mechanism discussed above. Step 1. Decompress your spine daily for 5 to 10 minutes in a supported position. Lie flat on your back with your calves elevated on a chair or ottoman, hips and knees at 90 degrees. This position removes all gravitational compression from your spine and allows disc imbibition to begin. Do this in addition to your sleep. Think of it as a midday rehydration session for your discs. 5 minutes minimum, 10 is better. Do this every single day. Step 2. Walk for a minimum of 30 minutes daily at a moderate pace. This provides the rhythmic compression-decompression cycle your discs require for nutrient exchange. If your joints allow it, add 2 to 3 sessions per week of slow jogging, 12 to 15 minutes at a comfortable pace. The Bellevue study at Deakin University showed this specific loading pattern was associated with superior disc hydration and height compared to sedentary controls. Your discs need movement to feed. Without it, they starve. Step 3. Perform spinal extension exercises 3 times per week, targeting your multifidus and erector spinae muscles. The most effective and accessible movement is the prone back extension. Lie face down, arms at your sides, and slowly lift your chest 2 to 3 inches off the floor. Hold for 5 seconds, lower slowly. Repeat 10 times. A 2014 review published in the Archives of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation confirmed that targeted spinal extension exercises can reduce kyphotic posture in older adults. You are rebuilding the guy wires that hold your spine vertical. Step 4. Hydrate specifically for disc health. Your discs need water to rehydrate overnight. Drink 6 to 8 glasses of water daily, with deliberate hydration in the hour before bed. Avoid alcohol within 3 hours of sleep. Alcohol acts as a diuretic and impairs the overnight fluid balance your discs depend on for recovery. This isn't general wellness advice. This is targeted mechanical support for your spinal hydraulic system. Step 5. Protect your vertebral bone density through load-bearing exercise and nutrition. Vertebral compression fractures are the height loss accelerant, the catastrophic event that steals inches in weeks rather than years. Weight-bearing exercise, including walking, stair climbing, and resistance training, stimulates osteoblast activity in vertebral bone. Ensure adequate vitamin D intake. Most adults over 50 need 1,000 to 2,000 IU daily, though some researchers dispute the optimal dosage, and calcium from dietary sources, dairy, sardines, leafy greens. Get a DEXA scan after age 65 or after 50 if you have risk factors. Step 6. Address your sitting posture immediately. Every hour you sit without interruption is an hour of static compression on discs that cannot feed themselves without movement. Set a timer. Every 45 minutes, stand up, extend your spine gently backward for 10 seconds, then walk for 2 minutes. This breaks the compression cycle and permits momentary disc rehydration. Dr. Stuart McGill at the University of Waterloo, one of the world's leading spine biomechanists, has repeatedly emphasized that spines do not tolerate sustained static loading. They require variation. Give them variation. If even one of these steps was new to you, hit like. It costs you nothing, and it tells the algorithm to push this to more people who are losing height without knowing why. One tap from you reaches someone else. What stays with me about height loss is how we've normalized it. We joke about it. We call it shrinking. We accept it as a quirky part of aging, like needing reading glasses or forgetting where you put your keys. But it isn't quirky. It's structural collapse. It's your spinal architecture failing under neglect. And it predicts, with statistical significance, your risk of fractures, cardiovascular events, and death. The 2006 study in Archives of Internal Medicine was unambiguous. Men who lost 3 centimeters or more of height had significantly elevated mortality risk, independent of every other cardiovascular risk factor measured. Height loss wasn't a symptom of aging, it was a measurement of it, a simple ruler-based metric that captured systemic decline better than blood pressure readings or cholesterol panels. Nobody measures your height carefully at your annual physical anymore. They should. Because inside that number, inside the difference between who you were at 50 and who you are at 65, is the story of your disc hydration, your muscle integrity, your bone density, and your daily movement habits. All of it compressed into a single measurement. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment. When was the last time you accurately measured your height? Have you lost any since your peak? Most people over 55 have, and never connected it to their spine health. Share this with someone who's noticed they're shorter than they used to be. It's not inevitable. It's not irreversible. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. What's coming next week is about the one test that predicts falls better than any balance assessment your doctor has ever given you. You don't shrink because of time. You shrink because your spine stopped being maintained.